Welcome to another episode of the Core Link Solution, where we empower you with awareness and actionable insights. Believe it or not, more than 20 million people at this juncture have filed for unemployment in the United States alone. And recent numbers suggest that by the end of the year, almost 40 million people may be evicted from their homes. Right now, when you think about that, it's not only about how you prepare for the rest of this year in terms of finding unemployment or creating sources of income. This is a must-do now situation for so many folks. And so today's episode is going to be about how do you do that? How do you create multiple streams of income? And I have with me a very good friend, somebody I've had the chance to work with, to observe, to learn from as I was starting in my executive role at Legal Shield. My good friend, Mr. Darnell Self. Darnell, how you doing, brother?
Man, things are amazing. I appreciate you asking, and it's an honor to be here with your audience and on this podcast.
And man, so good to see you. And if you think about this, we were supposed to do this in 2018.
Wow.
Jamaica, right? Wow. Right? We were supposed to do this in Jamaica, and we didn't get a chance to do it. So good chance to finally catch up and do this. So let me do this introduction, man, appropriately so everyone knows who you are, man. And you can sit back for a second. So can I help you find anything? Was a phrase Darnell said dozens of times a day for 9 years while working at a men's and women's clothing store in the mall. At the age of 25, Darnell was tired of the 60 to 80-hour work weeks and virtually no weekends off that came with retail management. He was motivated to make a change and unknowingly joined the direct sales industry. Darnell was intrigued by the unlimited earning potential and time flexibility. After 3 years of gaining hard knocks, direct selling experience, and simultaneously losing finances, family support, and even faith in himself, Darnell started to gain some traction. Mr. Self joined the current direct sales company at 28 years old and was blessed to build an immensely successful organization. At 29 years old, his wife, Tracy, was able to resign from her job and has been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. The Self's organization produced 40 six-figure ring earners before he turned 40 years old. He's personally earned millions of dollars. However, he is mostly excited about the hundreds of millions his team has earned. Mr. Self's business leadership has been hailed by the National Black Chamber of Commerce, the largest minority business entity in the world. In 2004 and again in 2013, the NBCC recognized Darnell Self with its National Entrepreneur of the Year award. He is a mentor to thousands of striving entrepreneurs and has been asked to share his expertise with business students on several university platforms, including Washington Adventist University and Dartmouth Black Business Association at Dartmouth College. Darnell Self is without a doubt a living legend in the direct selling industry with a team of over 300,000 entrepreneurs. Let me say that again, 300,000 entrepreneurs. He has cultivated a team culture worthy of being mimicked by those who want to create an environment in which people can imagine leaving. Mr. Self also has a passion for charity work. He and his best friend, Mike Humes, have created a nonprofit organization that allows them to generously donate their time and monetary support. Their nonprofit has assisted in the Haiti relief, provided clothes to thousands that are less fortunate, fed villages in the Dominican Republic, provided Christmas gifts to children from underprivileged schools in the District of Columbia, and supported the construction of an all-girl orphanage in Guatemala and a host of other notable deeds. Again, welcome my friend, Mr. Darnell Self.
Man, that makes me feel like I'm 50 years old. I am 50, but listening to that, I'm like, man, that's when you say words like legend, it's like OG, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
Original. Like you have to be a certain age. So I appreciate the kind words, my friend, but it did make me feel a little older.
Hey, brother, listen. Everybody says, man, I have to do a shorter version of the bio or something. I'm like, listen, I read the whole thing so people can understand the scar tissue. And you go, there's some scar tissue there.
Yeah,
man.
no doubt.
Right? You've learned some things, man. So, one, happy you're here. Two, I can't express enough. I love when I have people I've had the chance to spend time with, observe, and see a part of their journey. You know what I mean? So it's one thing when you have people on your podcast, and actually I've been blessed. Most of the people that have been on the podcast, I've actually spent a lot of time with. There have been very few people I haven't. So it's good that I can really testify to their work. So let me just say that up front, that I've been able to see your work, and I've been blessed by it. I remember early on joining the organization, man, just being able to spend time with you, and you educate me on a lot of those different things. So one, thank you for that. Let me start here because I like to let people get personal early on. And this is going to be tremendously hard for you. And you've got to think about this from the perspective of those 300,000 entrepreneurs that are going to be listening to this. Think hard, brother. Think hard. What is one thing that you can share that most people don't know about you? Now, before you answer, I need you to think about all those one-on-ones, all those group meetings, hundreds of presentations you've done annually on stage, sharing stories. Because I've watched you. You get personal, man. You draw people in through stories. That's a part of what you do.
Right.
So you got to come up with something that you have not really shared.
Yeah, that's tough.
I know.
James Rosseau, because almost every talk I give, I dig deep and share a story. Like, I'm a big storyteller.
I know.
Right. And so I've shared almost every story that I've ever had. I just related to business. So
you think about that. The only option you have is something you haven't wanted to share, or something that's probably happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. That's the only option you probably had, right? One of those options.
That's true. I had a few things I don't think I've ever shared. So I have a mustache now, so you can't really see it. But there's a split in my lip. Like, literally, my top lip was split into two lips. So I had three lips. My bottom lip and my top lip were like two separate lips, because when I was younger, I've always had big dogs growing up. I don't even have any pets now, but I had a Doberman Pinscher named Thor, and he was the pick of the litter. Big paws, so I knew he was going to be huge.
Right.
And so he was so big, James, that when he stood up on his hind legs, his paws were on my shoulder and his head was above mine.
Wow. So
it was a huge dog, kind dog, but very intimidating.
Right.
So one day I'm playing with him, and we're just playing around, boxing, wrestling. And he stands up and he pushes his paws against my chest. And he's so big, it made me lose my balance. And when I'm falling backwards, I turn to see where I'm falling to catch myself, but it's a glass table.
Oh man. So
it's nothing I can do except do like this and go right through the glass table.
Oh man.
And when I stood up, my lip was split.
Oh man.
I was like, it was just like draining, man.
How old were you?
At that time I was 12.
Gotcha.
12 years old, man.
Gotcha.
And ran upstairs. My mother's like, whoa, just blood. She was going crazy. And so I kind of liked it after started to heal, because I'm a suburban guy, so I didn't grow up in the city. I'm like a big nerd. Yeah. Right. So, but it made me look kind of tough. So, like, my friends was like, dude, man, you was in a fight. I was like, yeah, man. Like, no, I got pushed to a glass table for my dog.
The dog took me down.
So that's good. What most folks don't know, man, is that, I've grown up with big dogs, and I've got a lot of my scars came from crazy stuff I've done in my life, including messing with my big dog.
Gotcha. Now, when you say grew up in the suburbs, what suburbs?
So I grew up in Prince George's County,
right,
which is right outside of Washington, D.C.
Okay, gotcha.
And so, so I grew up there and born and raised, and guess what? Still live in Prince George's County. Yeah. Yep. I live literally 15 minutes away from where I grew up.
I've traveled all around the world and still 15 minutes away.
It's home, man. No place like home.
Look at that. So when you think about your story, I mean, I'm sure, and you've told your story dozens of times, I mean, hundreds of times, but hearing it probably feels different on the other side, right? Think about what I said, 20 million people file for unemployment, many of which were probably in some extent in jobs like, service industries and things like that, are wondering when they can go back. There are no near-term signs that they can go back, right? This whole thing seems to be spiraling a bit. And a lot of folks, often think about how can I go into something, maybe I can use my gifts and talents, right? And do something and generate income. You've helped, again, thousands upon thousands, man, 300,000 plus entrepreneurs. But the thing I would press upon a little bit is you've also seen people come in and come out, dabble in, dabble out a little bit. Talk a little bit about that transition process in terms of how it starts, right? And starts to gain a little traction. How do you even start to think through going into your own business?
Yeah, no, that's great. Every business that I've ever participated with, that I've had success with, I've had mentorship, right? So, and I think that's critical, because if you're going into an unknown, right? An unknown market, unknown business. And sure you're going to do your research and, find out what your market looks like, your target audience, all those things. But it's great to say, who's successful in that space already, right? And if you can be coached, and that's not always possible, but if you can be coached or be a part of a team where your inner circle has had some success in the same endeavor you're embarking upon, that would be, first choice.
Mm-hmm.
But even if it's, let's say I'm talking to someone who's very successful in real estate, and I'm not getting started with real estate, but yet I am getting started in 1099 business, right? So real estate, you make as much money as obviously the houses you sell. And or if you're flipping houses, investing, it's different, obviously different parts of real estate. But let's just say you're selling homes. So you're getting a 1099 income. So if I'm participating in a 1099 income, I'd want to at least talk to someone who's survived in that same type of income, so I can kind of figure out, okay, what should I expect? If you had to do it all again, how would you do it? So I think mentorship is key. It certainly has helped me out big time, because it's allowed me to, one, not have to reinvent the wheel, right? 2 ways of learning yourself, hard knocks, and 2, learn from other people, learn from their mistakes so you can avoid those pitfalls.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's key, right? A lot of times people are like, well, I'm gonna give it a shot. You only have to try something that's never been done before.
Right.
You don't have to try it. If it's been done, all you have to do is find someone who's done it successfully, do what they've done, and you can get what they have.
Absolutely.
You have to have that work ethic. You do have to be coachable. Because if you find a mentor, but you're not coachable, what good is the mentor if they tell you to do something, you go ahead and do it your own way anyway?
Absolutely.
So I would say anything you're going to step out and do, finding a mentor would be the first step.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's so good what you said too. You don't have to try if it's already been done. I had someone used to say this. We used to always say that experience is the best teacher.
Yeah.
And my old pastor Chuck used to say, his dad always said, no, well, not really. Wisdom is learning from someone else's experience.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so I don't need to get burned.
Yeah.
Understand? If you can tell me.
Exactly. Look, mama said the stove was hot, but guess what? Some people still got to test it themselves.
Exactly.
Like, hey, if you say it's hot, you got burns to show me it was hot, I'm good.
I believe you. I believe you. Yeah. Absolutely. So talk about, the fact that you had to, the fact that you mentioned coachability is interesting, right? Talk about coachability and what you've seen in terms of folks being coachable or not. Is that a threshold issue?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I think what happens too, James, and it's funny because sometimes people say I'm coachable, but they have not properly defined coachability. Right. And so they don't know. And it's okay, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. Sure. I'm very careful to be judgmental when people are stepping into a place that's outside their comfort zone, because it takes a lot to first of all, step out and do something you've never done before.
Absolutely.
The worst thing you can do to a budding entrepreneur, someone who's used to W-2, used to 2 weeks check, is to beat them down when they make their mistakes.
Absolutely.
Right? Because show me someone who's never failed and I show you a failure.
Right.
Bottom line, right? So I already know they're going to fail. The key is to try to inoculate them so that when they do fall down, they realize that was a part of them succeeding. Right? It was a critical step. It was a part of the process. Right? It does not mean that they're failing. It means that now they have a signpost, so they know left is not the right way. Right? So these are all necessary things. Right? So to answer the question, coachability is not doing what you already think you should do, because it doesn't require coachability to do that. Coachability is when you think that perhaps that doesn't sound right, but you still do it. That's when it takes coachability. Right. You're like, I don't see it. It's like, remember Mr. Miyagi was telling the Karate Kid to wax. And he's like, why am I waxing a car? But then later on, he realized that was the offense and defense he needed. Absolutely. Right. So it's that same thing. So I find folks, I'm like, hey, I know how to help people succeed in the direct selling industry. Like I can do it in my sleep because I've been doing it for 25 years of my life. Right? I'm 50. So from 25 to 50, all I've been doing is direct sales full time. Right. In one company for the last 22 years. Right. So I know it. Right. Anything you've done at home, you know. Absolutely. Right? And so what happens is that I share with folks who've not made $1 yet. Check this out, James. Like they haven't literally made $1. Right. We've been making millions and millions of dollars. And I'm like, all right, so step one, here's what you're going to do. Like, I hear you, Mrs. Self, but Like they're questioning. And I want to say so badly, why would you go with what you think when I'm already telling you this is not just for me, but I can show, here's my track record, by the way. Like if it was me, you could say you're lucky, you got the gift of gab, you've been good at sales, you got started at the right time. But I can dispel all those myths and still tell you this is why. And so coachability is not just doing what you think you should do, it's doing what you don't think you should do because a mentor told you to do it. That's
good. That is so good, man. There is so much in there. So one, that defining coachability, right? And I love that, doing what you don't think you should do. Wow, that's good. The second thing you said in there, which is so interesting, I already know they're going to fail.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to inoculate them, right? And so in there is almost an implied point of they fail at their regular W-2 job as well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt as bad because they still get paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Isn't that good?
That is so good, man. Yeah. Right? Because if I fail there, they know I'm going to fail too, but they still pay me. And failure is a part of that journey. And it's expected because I'm learning until I get the rhythm. Right. But here, man, failure could almost make me just stop and say, no.
Yeah, you know why? You know why it happens? Because people forget that, they should be using failure as a verb, not as a noun, right? So it's not a destination, it's ongoing. You're going to continue to fail. If you're going to reach a higher level, you're failing. It's a verb, it's action. So you're moving forward. It's okay, you're moving. It's progressive.
Yeah.
Right? So it's progressive realization. It's hard to realize what you did wrong until you failed at it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, good. I'm not going to do that. So it's progressive, and that's okay. You're moving forward, right? 1% better. You're just getting 1%. That's all. And so people look at failure as this destination. Like, man, I tried that before. It didn't work for me.
Right.
That wasn't you dated before, so that you're good. You're right. You're good. Right. No, it's okay. Just don't bring it forward.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Learn from it. Keep moving. So yeah, and so all of this is about being coachable, right? Because what you and I are talking about right now is people stepping out because of unemployment levels, because of the potential eviction numbers, which are just scary to me when you mention those numbers.
Yeah,
it's about, hey, look, how do I find something that can be reoccurring that can bring in extra?
Exactly,
that can be your main thing, extra, right? Multiple streams of income, and so. That's why it's so critical to realize, yes, you're going to bump your head. Yes, but you bumped your head your job. That was brilliant. You're absolutely right. But here's the thing I love about a lot of additional opportunities here in America. Let me just speak to North America.
Okay.
Right? Because, there's a free enterprise system.
Right.
With a lot of resources. And so there's nothing holding us back except us. We have this self-imposed barrier. No pun intended on my last name, but there's a self-imposed barrier, right? And so the only reason we haven't succeeded to a level that we desire is because it's what we think about us. And the moment we think about ourselves, how God sees us, we're unlimited.
That's right.
Right. And so the problem is that it's how we see ourselves, number one. And number two is what we think about what other people think about us. Two big things that I've seen hold budding entrepreneurs back. You think it's something like skill set.
Yes.
Knowledge. That's like what holds people back. You can get someone a book and they can read it and still not succeed. You can send them to a seminar, they come home from the seminar excited and still not succeed.
Yeah.
It's not the knowledge, right? It's not the skill set. I can teach anyone the skill set. Right. It's all here.
Yeah. That second one, what people perceive other people think about them. You can see that take hold.
Yep. I see it. Let me tell you how I see it. One day you talk to someone, they're like, oh my gosh, I had this dream. I'm supposed to be doing something bigger. I'm supposed to be doing something greater. Like even if there's less money, they can no longer, because they know, Les Brown says, once your mind's expanded, it can't go back. Right. So they know now they've been called to do something greater in life. Right. And so that day they talk to you, James. They're like, James, I had to call you, man, because I had to share this with you, man. Right. I got this, this revelation, like they're on it. 2 days later, sometimes 20 minutes later, they're like, yeah, man, I was just thinking, I probably, don't really have the time for it, right? It's not a good season for me. You all just like,
absolutely.
You know what happened?
Yes.
They shared it with somebody.
Yes.
Who said, hey, there's a lot of other people already doing that. You know what I mean? Or, hey, your uncle did something like that, right? They're talking to someone and allowing them to coach them, but that coach has never played the game.
That's right. That's right. And this should not be weird to people that's going to happen, right? Because, gosh, I mean, it's in so many places, even just scripturally, that you're a peculiar people. that word peculiar, you're peculiar people. It's not going to be popular, right? You should know this. You have to be the salt of the earth, right? I mean, salt is small, right? It can't be seen on food, right? Just so many things that we get that are signs that you're going to be unique. And you should not look for massive validation.
Exactly.
And we used to say this at the end of conferences, right? I mean, you remember this. I know I would say at the end of some of the business solution conferences, you are fired up now. And you're going to head to the airport fired up. You're going to be writing down things in the car together, slapping your hands. You got plans, new goals. You're going to get on that plane, get off the plane, get your bags, be on the way home, and you're going to walk through the door, and somebody's going to say some things to you.
Yeah.
And your plans are going to start to dissipate.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't gird your loins for that moment, you're going to lose it all.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's how it works.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
And that's why we were talking about coachability, having a mentor. The second thing to that, for anyone who's thinking about creating additional cash flow from owning a side hustle, as they call it nowadays, not necessarily a side job,
right?
Something that generates extra income is you have to have accountability.
Yeah.
So not only you have to have a mentor, you have to have it could be a spouse, it could be a best friend, it could be a business partner, but you got to have accountability, right? It's so easy for us to say, I don't feel like it today. Well, listen, you got to do the thing you don't feel like doing. That defines the difference between those who succeed massively and those who don't. When you do it when you don't feel like it. Guess what, James? The funny thing is, I used to manage a retail store, right? You talked about that in my bio. I used to say, "Can I help you?" That was my thing when everybody walked into my store.
Right.
And the crazy thing is that I used to suffer from migraines, right? A long time ago. I don't anymore, thank God. But I used to go to work for somebody else with a migraine. But when I started as an entrepreneur and I had a headache,
right,
I was like, I'm just going to lay down for the day. But when I had my job, I didn't lay down. Why? I managed the store. I couldn't lay down.
Exactly.
So hold on, the same headache, I would go build someone else's dream. I won't build my own dream. How does that make sense?
Exactly.
No, I'm not saying that I should. I'm not being insensitive to those who have migraines. I know what it's like. Like, you got to be in the dark. It's horrible. But all I'm saying is that if I did it for somebody else,
right.
That's all I'm saying.
How much more should you do it for yourself?
That's it.
Especially if you're going to build something that is generational.
Yeah.
Wealth, right? You have the opportunity to build generational wealth. How much more?
Yes.
Yeah,
so
man.
That's why if I didn't have accountability, I would not be where I am today. Yeah. I promise you, I would have told myself plenty of times, I'll do it tomorrow.
Excellent.
I'll do it next week.
Absolutely.
I'll do it next month. And before you know it, it's next year.
Right.
And then it never happens. And you think at 50, at 60, man, I should have. If I was 20, if I was doing it all again, because I know you get those questions in interviews. If you were James Rosseau at 20, you tell that James Rosseau today, right? That's a famous interview question.
Exactly.
So yeah,
no, that's good. That's good. So that goes right into something I was going to ask you next, which is from a personal development perspective, right? How do you think about those coachees? So they come in, to your point. They may not have the proper definition of coachability, but let's just say they're okay. They're not necessarily questioning you. They take the steps you give them, right, in a systematic way, and they start executing on them. How do you think about their personal development journey? How do you think about building them up?
Yeah. So in most businesses, you're dealing with people, right? You're dealing with people. So if you own your own business, you need clients, you need an audience, right? People to purchase your services, your products, to view your mastermind events, whatever it is you're doing. So if that's the case, because you're dealing with people and people are unique,
right,
peculiar, interesting, fascinating, right? It's a bunch of words for us. We all are, right?
Right.
And because of that, I found that it is critical, like essential, not optional.
Yes.
That we grow ourselves, because it's not what's going to happen to you, it's how you respond. And most people have heard that before, but you will be tested. And here's how you know whether you've grown or not, because in business, there are ebbs and flows. There's peaks and valleys, right? If anyone tells you it's not, they're lying, right? So there's peaks and valleys, right? And so the key is in your valley time to have a mountaintop attitude.
Yes.
Right. And how do you do that without personal development? So the things that happen to me today are the same things that happened to me 10, 20 years ago.
Yes.
The difference is not my money. The difference is my attitude.
Right.
It's how fast I bounce back.
Right.
That's why personal development is so important, because I've seen people, and you too, James, and I know your audience has seen this, you know people that hold on to the same thing for a long time.
Absolutely.
Something happens to them that morning on their way into work.
Absolutely.
Like cuts them off. And when they get to the job, the first person they see, let me tell you what this fool did today.
Absolutely.
At lunch, hey, did I tell you what happened to me this morning?
Right.
At dinner, when they get home to their spouse, did I tell you what happened to me this morning, baby? The next week, hey, right? And people care for years. Hey, I'll never forget in 1999, man, this person pissed me off.
Exactly.
Dude, that was 20. You still holding on to that? People hold on to the relationship. They hold, and I'm like, and then certain people, seconds, they're like, I don't even remember.
Right.
Because they're so forgiving. They've allowed themselves to let stuff go. This is what personal development has done. Right. So that's why it's so key in business, because you're dealing with people. And the worst thing is to interact with your next potential client, to sign the next deal. And you brought with you the challenge, the burden of something you just dealt with. And you don't come across as we should, because we got this burden and we're like, yeah, I just wanted to talk, right? We're not full of what we need to be, because we're bringing everything forward. That's why personal development is key.
Absolutely.
So we all need it.
We all need it. And I just want to add something you said, and because I think it just fits here. When you understand your purpose and you understand your gifts and your talents, those things just become distractions and hurdles that you're willing to push to the side. Yeah. You're like, distraction, keep moving, hurdle, jumped, keep moving. You don't dwell on them, right? You just keep moving. Grace, mercy, keep going. Got it. Thank you. Sorry. You just keep going, right? Because when you're focused on that big why, that big purpose, you stay focused and lasered. When you haven't identified it, or it's not big enough, it's easy to get distracted. And that's why I challenge people all the time when I'm coaching folks or helping folks or whatever it is. If you haven't identified that big why and that purpose, you have a huge piece of homework to do first, right?
So true.
You got to get that right first.
So true. I read a book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Yeah. And then it's all small stuff if it doesn't have anything to do with your purpose. Yeah. And it keeps me in a spirit of gratitude. Absolutely. Right? Because I'm so thankful because once you find your purpose, you feel so thankful and grateful that you're able to walk in that purpose. Absolutely. Anything outside of that, it's okay. Right? Because maybe it's designed to get me back in my lane to focus on my purpose. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And that's how I think about things. So I'm just grateful, man. So thankful. And I really want to see people in that place, because then they have that internal joy and not looking for that happiness from external results. Yeah. And I know one of the things you talked about as well is not getting stuck, and that anchors to this as well, not getting stuck on the initial agenda and roadmap, man. Elaborate on that. Oh man, that's my favorite thing. Funny. You know what's so funny too is I could think of times and situations where people, well, Mr. Self, you said we were going to do. Yeah. No, you're right. It's just we become overdependent on our own agenda, and sometimes here's what I found. I'm gonna speak for myself because of all the mistakes I've made, and I've made a ton of mistakes. Like whatever you're thinking right now, more. And so it's allowed me to be a better man, a better husband, better father. All these mistakes I've made allow me to have conversations I wouldn't have had with my wife, with my kids, that allow me to be better in that relationship. Right. I'm so thankful. You know what I mean? As long as you communicate through the mistake. Otherwise, you won't get better. You're just like, oh well, right? So becoming overdependent on your own agenda, my friend, is like, so you're so rigid that if it doesn't look like this, if it doesn't happen like this, then it's not right. And I found that is not true at all. In all my successful friends, the road to success did not look like they thought it was going to look when they put it in their head. Exactly. Right. And I'm so thankful, like yourself, that they had purpose, because it kept them just moving through all the zigzags. Sometimes I call it my slingshot season. Yes. And I felt like I was going back. I'm like, God, why do you have me going backwards? But he was pulling me backwards to thrust me, right? That slingshot, when he let it go, it threw me so far ahead of anywhere I thought I'd ever be. Absolutely. Parts of the world I didn't even know existed. I'm like, whoever thought I'd be in Reykjavik? I'm like, where is this? Like, you know what I mean? So my point is that it was my slingshot season. So look, I'm an introvert, James, right? Which simply means I'm okay by myself. I'm okay I can read a book and hammock. I don't need to be at a party. So that's an introvert. I'm an introvert by nature. I'm still an introvert today. So it's not natural for me to go out and just meet strangers, right? That's not natural. I can do it because I believe in expanding my comfort zone, but it's not my natural space.
Yeah, same here. Yep.
So you would never think that this guy's going to speak in front of tens of thousands. This guy's going to be in sales and marketing. This guy's right. So if I depended on my own agenda, I would have to say, well, as an introvert, I guess I'll just be doing this. But because I didn't become overdependent on my own agenda, it led me, we call it connecting the dots, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it led me from one place to the junior usher board at my church. And my mom said I need to make friends. So she made me join the junior usher board. And the only reason I got the job in retail is because I put junior usher board on my job application as an extracurricular activity, which shows you how much of a nerd I was. Right. Who in the world puts junior usher board on the job application? Right. but getting that job let me real. That, yeah, it led me to meeting my wife, who worked at the mall, which led me to quitting the job because I got in this altercation because I worked in the hood, if you will. Yeah. And it was bad. It was a bad environment. And this guy threatened my life. He called the store, but my wife answered the phone. If I hadn't have married my wife who worked at the store, my wife wouldn't have answered the phone. Right. It would have been some cashier. And if my wife wouldn't have answered the phone, she wouldn't have called my mom. A regular cashier wouldn't have called my mom. But my mom said, hey, Tracy told me what's going on. You need to quit that job. I can't think, James, of anybody else in this world that I quit my job for except my mom. I'm the only child, by the way. She's like, I'm not losing you over no foolishness. You're my only one. Quit your job today. I was like, Mom, I got responsibility. I got a house, I got cars. She's like, quit your job. And I quit. That's how I quit my job. People think I quit because that's an entrepreneur. I quit because my mom said, I'm not losing you over no foolishness.
Wow.
So I quit my job that day. That thrust me into an entrepreneur at the age of 25. So my point is, all that from being an introvert, my mom making me join the junior usher board, to me putting on a job application that I wouldn't have had that job, which means I wouldn't have met my wife at that store, which means that she wouldn't have called my mom who told me to quit my job, which means I wouldn't have been an entrepreneur at 25.
Man, that's so much there. And that to me is like a closing point, man. This the flexibility on the roadmap. It's like the Mike Tyson part, right? Everybody have a plan till they get punched in the mouth.
So true, man.
Let me recap, and if I miss anything, man, jump in because these are so good. So, and let me say this to people too: if you were expecting kind of a technical thing of which business to find and whatnot, this is not that. Because the whole thing of finding businesses and whatnot, you can Google that. There are plenty of businesses. You can Google what the P&L looks like for certain businesses and the margins and all that. That's easy. Yep. Okay. The part is the you. How do you approach it and get yourself prepared and go through the journey? So one, Darnell's point of mentorship. Okay. Don't try it. Find somebody who's already tried it and get that wisdom. Lock up with somebody who's done it. And quite frankly, not only done it successfully, you want someone who's got some scar tissue.
Yep.
Been through the failures.
Yep.
Ask them to tell you about their failures.
Yep.
Ask them to tell you about the failures.
By the way, James, who have fruit.
Yeah.
Right? They're not just successful, but they're successors, right? So they have also duplicated. They can show you, look, I've mentored several people, because a lot of folks have done it, but they've not been able to teach it. To do it and be able to teach others to do it are two different skills.
Two very different skills.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great point. Two, be coachable. I love Darnell's point of everyone defines coachability different. So be coachable. Be someone who's able to do the things that you actually don't feel need to be done. Think about that. Think about the Mr. Miyagi example. You want to go do Kung Fu. The last thing you're thinking about is wax on, wax off. So are you going to be willing to do the things that someone says doesn't fit within the sphere that you expect? Two, within there as well, see failure as a verb, not a noun. Know that you will fail and it may not feel well. And are you going to be willing to stand up more times than you fall? Point three, get an accountability partner. Have someone who's going to make those calls, call you when you don't feel like getting up, call you to whatever it is, go to the track, go to the workout place, go to the meetings, go to those different events, take the flight to the conference, right? Work up all night on the homework or whatever the case be. Get an accountability partner. Number four, personal development. You're going to have to work on yourself. You're going to have to go through and persist, take the punches and keep going. And point five, don't get wed to what you think is the roadmap.
Yeah. This
is a tapestry. It's never a straight line.
Yeah.
It is squiggly as a mug.
You're not lying.
Even in the W2 environment, it's squiggly as a mug. No one gets the straight up to the right. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
far few in between do you find anyone say, oh, I wanted to be a CFO. I came right out with a BA in finance and I got my first junior accountant job. Then I went through accounts payable and I went straight up the ride. Rarely.
Right.
Very, very rarely. Yeah. Very, very rarely. D, this was really, really good, brother. Really good. Any parting words of advice that we didn't cover, man?
No, man, that was great. It's been fun, and you're absolutely right. I think the technical side, right? Some of us are tacticians, and we're like, but I would say, still do that homework, right? Still, and that's what's good for having an accountability partner and a coach, because they'll say, hey, look, let's take a look at not just the investment, but the return.
Yes,
right? Because the return is more important than the investment.
Yes,
I'll invest $100,000 in the property if it's worth $300,000. Even if I don't have 100,000, you know what I mean? I borrow 10,000 from 10 people. Those are called my investors.
Exactly.
Right. So yes, the technical part, you still need that.
Right.
That's not what this podcast was about, this episode. Maybe we can do another one on that. But yes. but you still, that's why you need a coach. So they can say, here's your homework assignment. Take this because you need to look at this and see if it's a fit for where you are in life right now.
Exactly. Right? So if you do the technical part to identify the business you want to be in, this now has you mentally prepared to mentor and go through the rest of the process.
Which is the most important thing.
Absolutely. So Correlate Solution audience, as always, these are our views, our thoughts on this topic. Want to hear your views wherever you're listening or watching. Drop them in the comments section. We'll be sure to respond. As always, be informed, be empowered, be accountable. See you next episode.